Welcome to Write with Harte. I'm Jenna Harte, a romance author and a romance ghostwriter. Over the last 2 years, I've written over 2.5 million swoon-worthy words, and I am here to share with you my tips and insights on how you can write swoon-worthy romances as well. Now, we have hit the end of 2020. Yay! And now we're rounding the corner into 2021. And while many parts of 2021 will probably be the same as they were last year for a little while, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And for many people, myself included, there is sort of a renewed energy, a desire to kind of restart and reboot, particularly if you are a writer. So this is the time of year that people are setting goals and they're getting their planners out and they're mapping out their years so that they can have a successful writing year. And I am no different. I am doing the same. However, in this episode, I'm not actually going to cover goal setting for authors for you because there's a ton of other great resources to help you do that. What I wanted to talk to you about is the stuff that many times all the goal gurus don't really go into enough detail to help you overcome. And those are the things that are getting in the way of you setting your goals. I'm not even really talking about mindset, although that is something that can get in the way. But what I have found for myself and in talking with other people is that they are very inspired by their goals. They really want to do them. They've planned them out, chunked them down, and added them to their daily to-do list, but they're not doing them. And the reason they're not doing them is because the systems and the environment that they're in are not supporting them to get them done. And that's what I want to cover today. I want to cover a variety of things that might be in the way and how you can redesign your systems and your environment so that you can actually achieve your writing goals. So let's talk about the biggie thing that really gets in the way of many writers, and that is time. The thing about time is you definitely have to be brutally honest with yourself about where you're spending it. If you're like me, you've been binge watching a lot of TV. If I had spent half the time writing that I did watching TV, I would have written so many books last year, but I didn't. I'm going to blame COVID, but that's only because I let COVID get me down, so in the end, it's my own fault. Even so, I was still able to crank out over 1 million words last year, so it wasn't like I wasn't productive. And it's because I have learned how to set up time to write. So I really want to talk to you about that. Now, before I get into some of my tips and strategies, I do want to point out a few things. Yes, writing takes time. It's not something that you can sit down and crank out a novel in an hour or even in a day. It does involve you taking time over time to get it done. With that said, it doesn't take humongous amounts of time to write and make regular steady progress and get a book done. For example, if you were to write 500 words a day, in 4 months you would have 60,000 words written, which is a romance novel. Now, if you were writing a 75,000 word romance novel, you just add 1 more month to it. So 5 months, 500 words a day. Now, I know it sounds like that would take a long time, but 500 words adds up quickly. It doesn't take a lot of time to do, and if you're consistent, it's going to be done in 5 months. Based on what you're doing now, in 5 months, are you going to have 75,000 words written? And if the answer is no, then maybe the 500 words a day strategy would be helpful to you. So let's talk about how long it would take to write 500 words. Well, in my world, when I am writing and I am in the flow, I am writing 1,500 to 1,800 words an hour. So that's about 700 to 900 words in 30 minutes, which is beyond 500. Writing 500 words in 30 minutes is doable. Writing 1,000 words in an hour is doable. Can you find 30 minutes to an hour a day? And I would argue that if you really want to write a book, you can find 30 minutes to an hour in a day. And if you cannot find 30 minutes to an hour a day for your goal, how bad do you really want it? Okay, so that out of the way, hopefully we've put things into some perspective. In 30 minutes to an hour, you can write 500 words to 1,000 words, and if you can find that every day, you are going to have a book in a couple of months, 4 to 5 months. You write 1,000 words a day, it's going to take you 2 months to have 60,000 words. So now that we know we're not looking for that much time, okay, you don't have to be like Stephen King or Nora Roberts or them who write 4 hours a day or 8 hours a day. You can do this in an hour or less. And let me tell you, plenty of authors do. I can't tell you how many authors I've met who write only 1,000 words a day or only 500 words a day. A couple years ago, I met somebody at Malice Domestic who did it on 250 words a day. So don't think like you have to write these humongous chunks to make progress on your book. So back to 30 to 60 minutes a day. You should be able to find that in the day that you have. But let's say that you can't. Let's talk about different ways that you can find that. The obvious is to give up something that you're doing that doesn't need to be done by you. Okay, so maybe it's cutting out TV or cutting down on the amount of TV that you're doing. Maybe it's cutting down on some of the sleep you get, getting up a half hour earlier, staying up a half hour later. So pretty much cutting down or getting rid of stuff that you don't need to do is one way to find extra time. Another way is to delegate things that need to be done, but that they don't need to be done by you. So you can teach your kids how to sort socks. You could ask your partner to sweep the kitchen after dinner. If you're one of those people who's doing a lot around the house beyond what other people are doing, it's time to ask them to jump in. Now, if they've already jumped in and they're helping a lot, it still doesn't hurt to ask them to help you find 30 minutes to an hour. You could definitely return the favor if they have some sort of dream or goal they want to achieve as well. The other thing is if you can find a way to automate or make things easier for you, that can be helpful too. I automate things in my business. So I use a social media management tool that not only will allow me to schedule out social media, but it will recycle it. So it'll send it out again another time. So I'm not constantly having to come up with new content, and my old content still gets shared so that people who might have missed it the first time or last month will get a chance to see it again. So basically you can find time by deleting stuff, delegating stuff, or automating stuff, and only you can figure out as you go through all the stuff you do during the day, what is something that you can stop doing, what is something that you can have somebody else do, and what is something that can be automated. And let me remind you again that we're only talking about 30 or 60 minutes. Start with that. If getting into a writing routine and meeting your writing goals has been a real struggle, start small and work up to it. For a long time, I was the 1,000-word-a-day person. I would just find that hour to write, and there were times it was really hard, and I will get to how I overcame that as well. But now I write an average of 3,500 to 4,000 words a day, and I don't spend all day doing it. Actually, recently, I've figured out a way to write more in less time, which has been really excited. I've doubled my output. And if you would like me to do a video on how I was able to do that, let me know in the comments below, because I would be happy to share with you how I was able to do that. So the second thing that can get into our way of our writing is our writing space. You need time and space to write, but your writing space needs to be a place that is going to inspire you to write. So if it's cold or dull or drab, that may not be the ideal place to write unless cold, dark, and drab is inspiring to you. I do not like to write where I work. I work from home, and when I'm going to write my fiction or even my ghostwriting, I don't do it at my desk. I take my laptop, and I have a couple of places around the house that feel comfortable to me. One of them is on my brand new couch. It reclines a little bit. It's in the room with the fireplace, so now that it's winter, I start a fire. I have music going. It just is calm and relaxing, and it allows my creativity to flow, and I am able to write. In the summer, a lot of times I go out and write on the deck just because it's really nice to be in the fresh air and in the sun. So you have to find a place where you're comfortable and you can feel inspired. So if you need colors around you, then you have that. If you need minimalist around you, you need to find a space for that. Only you know what's going to work best for you. The other thing I would say in your space is it should be a place where you can go and sit and write. So you shouldn't have to clean things up or pull a bunch of stuff out. The easier it is for you to just open your laptop or turn on your computer and start writing, the better. So in my case, I just unhook my laptop because I have an external monitor. So I unhook all that, I bring my laptop downstairs, I sit down and I write. Easy peasy. I don't have to clean anything up. I don't have to pull anything out. And again, when you have the time, you want to make it easy just to sit down and write. So identify a place or even a couple of places like I do where you can just go and sit and start writing right away, that it isn't a hassle to get there, and it feels inspiring. It makes you feel like a writer. The other part of place is having the tools and things around you that also make you feel like a writer. So maybe you're going to have your tea or your diet drink or your stack of M&Ms. I like to have coffee or water when I write. Maybe you're going to have a glass of wine. We're only talking about a half hour, an hour here, so that's possible too. But have the things, again, around you that's going to support you in your writing. You don't want to get up 5 minutes into your writing because you realize you're thirsty. Another thing about time and space is when you have found them both and you're sitting down to write, what you want to make sure you do is you turn off all your notifications on your computer and on your phone because you don't want to be interrupted. You want to let your family know that you're writing and that they should not interrupt you either unless there's fire or blood or some other emergency. We're talking about a half hour, an hour here, right? I don't think it's too much to ask. So now that we've talked about time and space, let's talk about mental energy. How many times have you had the time to write, but you just wasn't feeling it? The muse wasn't there. The thing is when you have the time to write, you need to write even if the muse is MIA. And in fact, a lot of times if you can get button chair, the muse will show up as you're writing. So that part's really important. The ability to get yourself into the chair and writing, even when you're not feeling it, is really often the difference between somebody who's getting their book done and somebody who isn't. But you need to find the hacks and tricks that are going to get you in the chair, and that's going to be different for a variety of people. For a lot of times, you just have to force yourself in it. It's sort of like going to the gym. It is a real chore to get you out to exercise, but once you're there and you're going, you feel pretty good about it. It's the same with writing. It can be a chore to get in the chair, but once you start going, generally you get into the groove and things will get done. But if you still find it difficult, there's some things you can do. Maybe you can put on energetic music or inspiring music that makes you feel good. If there's an author out there that you aspire to be like, maybe go and start reading one of their books, read an interview about them, listening to a podcast with them. I know that when I'm around other writers, I get highly charged up to write. So if there's somebody that you want to be like, what better way to get inspired by them than by looking at the success that they're having? So you need to look at some of the different ways that you can be inspired to write. And if one of the reasons you're being resistant to writing is because where you go to write isn't inspiring, that goes back to the space thing. Find another space where you feel good and comfortable about going to write. Now, one reason that some people get really resistant about sitting down to write is they don't know what they're going to write. As a pantser by nature, this was one of my biggest issues, that when I do NaNoWriMo or when I had my write 1,000 word a day goal, if I knew what I was going to write, it was easy peasy. I'd sit down and in an hour I had my words. It was the days where I didn't know what I was going to write that it was really hard to sit down. And in fact, I would argue that it's disheartening to sit down and write and just have crickets rolling around in your brain. So you get to a point where you're like, why am I bothering to sit down to write? Because I don't know what I'm going to write. So this next thing I want to talk to you about is a way to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. That every time you sit down to write, you know exactly what you're going to write. Now, for those of you who are pantsters, I'm not going to start telling you to become all-out plotters, okay? But I am going to argue that if you're not writing because you just don't know what to write, you need to find a way to know what to write when you sit down. And I'm going to talk to you about what I do to do that. And it does involve plotting. And if you are a pantster, I'm going to ask you to hold off, and I am going to give some solutions for you once I describe how I work. So the first thing I do is I have learned to plot, and I had to do it for my ghostwriting. And the first time I wrote an 80,000 word book in 20 days, I knew plotting was the answer for me to get all these stories rattling around in my head actually down and out on a page in my lifetime. Okay, so I was hooked on the idea of I can write fast. I can get these words done, get them done fast, get into revision much faster. So that was really exciting to me. Plotting is very, very difficult for me. The same things that come up in plotting that would come up in pantstering. It's just this, I don't know what to go next. But I really work really hard to get my plots done, and I get them down to essentially a chapter by chapter level. So I go through and I identify the key plot points in a story, and then I just whittle it down until I have a chapter by chapter summary of each. It's not like I have pages and pages for each chapter. It's a paragraph or two about what is going on in that chapter. And again, if that's something that you would like me to talk more about in Write with Harte, let me know in the comments below, and I can kind of go through how I do that. I will say it is very difficult for me, but once it's done, the writing goes by so fast. So once I have my chapter by chapter outline, I know about how many words are going to be in that chapter. I know how much time I have. I know how fast I can write. So I am able to actually break down my book into what I need to write every day. So I know if I'm writing 1,000 words a day, I can break down my book and know what I'm writing for each of those 1,000 words. A lot of times I'm writing a chapter, or maybe I'm just writing down a scene that I'm going to write. But this is how it works. So I am able to break down my book. I have it by chapters. I'm able to pull out my planner. I know, okay, I'm going to write 1,000 words a day. It's going to take me 2 months if I do that to get this book done. And then I'm able to just break it down into those 60 days. And what I do in I like a weekly spread, but if you had a daily spread, you could do that. But for each day of the week, I don't put write under the time that I'm going to write. I actually put down what I'm writing. So today it said, Sophie goes to talk to Alice. So it's one little sentence, but I know exactly what I'm writing. I can go right to it in my plotting book and kind of review what I'm supposed to be doing. I sit down and I do it. So I never have that thing about, well, I don't know what I'm going to write, so why would I sit down to write? Or where I'm sitting there and just hoping something would come and it doesn't. I put in my planner each day that I write exactly what it is I'm going to write. And like I said, it doesn't have to be detailed. It might be a single sentence. It might be just a couple trigger words. Sometimes I might put chapter 4. Now, if you are a pantster and you do not want to attempt plotting, or you find plotting really hard or uninspiring, that's okay. You can still anticipate and know what it is you're going to write when you sit down and write. And here's how I would recommend that you do that. I would try to plot out as far out as you think you could, even if it's only a week or maybe just a couple of days. So for example, let's say you wrote today and you finished writing. Before you left writing today, I would get a sense of what it was you were going to write tomorrow and write that in your planner. So for example, let's say I was a pantster and I finished the scene where Sophie is talking with her boyfriend and that's all done. And now I need to go look, and what is Sophie going to do tomorrow? Well, tomorrow Sophie has to go talk to Alice. So I would write that tomorrow Sophie goes to talk to Alice. And then tomorrow you would write whatever it is you need to write. And then again, at the end of that writing session, you need to figure out, okay, what am I going to write tomorrow? So you're not plotting out the whole book. I'm not telling you to put yourself into a confined plot that you feel might be too rigid or whatever. I'm just telling you, you need to anticipate what you're going to write tomorrow. And that way, it's a no-brainer. You got your 30 minutes, you got your hour, you sit down, you're going to write, and then you're going to figure out what you're going to write tomorrow. Or maybe you've plotted out for the week. And again, I'm not saying you have to have detailed notes and all this stuff. It just needs to be a word or a sentence or two that triggers you, so that at 6 a.m., when you sit down to write for 30 minutes, you look at your planner, it says write the first scene of chapter 4, you look at your notes of what that would be, you write it, and you're done, and off you go. Here's why I think this works. The more specific you are about your goals, the more likely you're going to achieve them. And we do that when we set goals, right? We've decided we're going to write a book and we're going to be done by June 1st or something. And then you break it down. And the problem is a lot of times when we get to the daily tasks, we're vague. We just put write down instead of exactly what you're going to write. But like I said, if you are more specific about what it is you're writing that day, then there's no wondering, for one thing. You know the task that needs to be done, and you're able to sit down and do it. The other thing is when you know what you're going to write, you feel inspired to write. I know that my stories will percolate if they're working in there, but if I don't know what to write, it's very uninspiring. Okay, tomorrow I'm writing such and such. It sort of hangs around in my brain. Sometimes I dream about it. So again, having a specific idea of what you're going to write about is one of the best ways to make sure that every time you sit down, you know what to write. You write your 500, your 1,000 words, whatever it is your goal is, and then you're done. So let's do a quick recap on what you need to do alongside of setting your goals, making a plan, and then actually turning your goals into daily to-dos. On top of that, you need to create an environment and systems that are going to support you so that you can actually get it done. And the first part of that is finding the time to do the writing. And we've already talked about you don't need a ton of time. You can make significant progress on your book with 500 or 1,000 words a day, a half hour to hour a day. It doesn't sound like a lot at first, but it doesn't take long to add up. The second thing you need is a writing environment that feels inspiring and is easy to access. So whether it is a little nook in a corner or a place on a sun porch, wherever it is, it needs to be a place where you really feel like a writer. You can get there, turn on your computer, open your laptop, and just start writing right away. It has all your tools, and you're going to walk into your writing nook with your tea or your coffee or whatever it is you need. All of that is going to be there. You're also going to turn off all the distractions so that 30 minutes to an hour is just spent writing. I swear to God, it will go fast. I am often shocked how quickly time goes when I'm in the zone. But if you can do that, you are going to make progress each and every day. And then the third part of that is being very specific in your planner when you're actually writing down your writing tasks of what you're going to do. Don't just put write in your planner. You want to actually have an idea of what it is you're going to sit down and write. And if you're a plotter, that becomes pretty easy. Matter of fact, I recently created my own planner. I'm a big Happy Planner fan. That's what I use. So I use a Big Happy Planner as my author planner. It's separate. I have classic planners for all my other things like my business and everything, but all my author stuff goes in here. And I really like it because it allows me to be creative, can organize it in the way I think and the way I work. But actually recently I did create my very own author planner that is actually in that particular planner. And one of the sections of it, along with my plots and everything, it allows me to map out my daily schedule of what I'm going to get done when on my current work in progress. So when I come to setting up my weekly planner, because I like weekly instead of daily, I actually can refer to that list and I can write on that day, Sophie goes to talk to Alice. And then the next day I can write in, Sophie goes and does this. And the next day is, this happens. Because I've already listed it out based on when I want to get the book done, knowing how many days I have to do it, and about how much I'm going to write each day. So it becomes really easy. Now, if that sounds something that would be interesting to you, that might help you, I'm actually giving away my author romance planner in the month of January. And not only would you get the novel planner, which includes how I break that down so I can go ahead and each day in my planner know exactly what I'm writing, it actually is 4 planners in one. So it does include goal setting to help you set up, what you want to achieve this year in your writing. How many books do you want to get done? How many do you want to sell? And all that kind of stuff. It also has a traditional planner, which is the monthlies and the weeklies. I like weekly 2-page spreads, but it also has a daily in there for those of you that really like daily spreads. It also has the novel planner, so you will be able to have all the ideas of the books you're writing, but it also has a planner for your current work in progress. So it has a checklist on everything that needs to get done. It has a list for your characters. It has lists for your setting. It helps you with your plot outline, and then of course it has those pages where you can map out, okay, if I have 60 days and I'm going to write 1,000 words a day, what do I have to write each day? And then you put that into the traditional daily or weekly planner. Finally, it really has a marketing planner as well, which includes tips and ideas on setting up your author platform and content ideas for marketing. It includes a sales tracker so that you can keep track of what's selling. And it also has a list in there for your backlist, because you can go back and sell your backlist. Now, if that sounds like something you would like to have, all you have to do is visit writewithharte.com. It's Harte, HARTE.com, and you just need to sign up for my newsletter, and you will get that planner for free during the month of January. After that, I'm thinking of maybe selling it. So go ahead and grab a copy for free while you can. Now, my goal with Write with Harte is to have short, quick, usable information and hacks to help you in your writing. This one was a little bit longer, but we had a lot to cover. I do hope that you found it helpful. If so, please subscribe. I would also love to hear your feedback or comments or questions. Just let me know in the comments below. And until next time, this is Jenna Harte from Write with Harte, wishing you peace, love, and happily ever after.